Hey guys, Deathy here. Today I just wanted to share my thoughts on the new patch. I played quite a lot yesterday as soon as the patch came out, and I just wanted to let you guys know what I think are the better heroes in the patch, how I feel about it, and stuff like that. There's already quite a bit of videos out there breaking down most of the changes, and I don't really think that I'm going to do it better than other people, and so I might put a link to the description to one of those videos. I just want to share my perspective as a high-level player on how I think this patch is going to affect the meta. I'm not really going to cover most of the item changes because most of them feel like just small updates to the items. Like, they don't really feel like super meaningful. A lot of them are small number changes, which I think is fine. I don't think there was a lot of items or anything like that that was like super broken. So before we get into the specific character changes, I just want to talk a little bit about my overall thoughts on the patch and how I feel about it. I think that this patch is a little bit disappointing in my opinion, and this is pretty rare that I say this. I'm usually a pretty positive guy, and I love all the patches and I love the changes, etc. But this patch feels a little bit lackluster. I don't really feel like they shook up the meta. At the same time, you know, the meta hasn't been established for that long, so I understand, but it feels like everything that was good last patch is still good. I think it's still going to be like tank meta, quote unquote. Of course, some of them got nerfed, but at the end of the day, items that were really problematic, like for example decay, in my opinion, like I don't understand how decay goes untouched. That's actually kind of crazy. That item does way too much damage for the cost, and just overall, like, all of the characters that felt really strong are probably still going to be really strong, and some of the characters that felt maybe a little undertuned might still be a little bit under. So obviously it's really early to say, but I'm not the biggest fan yet. This doesn't have anything to do with the patch release. For those that don't know, like, when the patch released, it was incredibly buggy and it was almost unplayable. You can check my VOD from yesterday if you want to see that, but like, there were, you know, multiple freezes like every match. It was rough. But yeah, overall, not the happiest about this patch, but we'll see how it develops. Maybe I'll change my mind in a couple days. All right, let's get into the hero changes. In need of some love at a high level. He hadn't been doing well for a significant amount of time. So they changed the way that kind of the character feels. They reverted the hook changes, so now you could hook teammates and you can't have your hook go through them. But they made it so you can move with his uppercut, meaning you can do some pretty funky stuff, like going behind someone like this and uppercutting them into your tower with a jump dash. Stuff like that. So you can get a lot more creative. You can also jump and shoot if your laser is already fired up, so that's just kind of nice. And other than that, they added the hyper beam splash damage, meaning if you shoot in an area, you're going to get some nice little splash. This is a huge buff, actually, because you can shoot people like behind objects and stuff. So I'm expecting Bebop to be like quite a bit better this patch. Inferno's base health got reduced from 625 to 600, and his flame dash slow resistance got up from 30% to 50%. The base health change does affect him, his laning a little bit, but it's not that bad, and I think that the slow resistance actually kind of makes up for it. So I do think that he's going to be a slightly better character, in my opinion. Now, Kelvin was hit pretty hard, so there's a couple things that were hit. So first thing, his beam now only does 40% firing rate slow, as opposed to the 80% that it did before. This makes it so you can actually like shoot him when he's beaming you and you're not completely useless. Another thing is that when he uses his ultimate on towers or objectives or things like that, they become frozen. So as you can see, there's a little effect around them, so they can't take any damage right now. This is going to affect Kelvin's gameplay quite a bit. It also means you cannot take the Rejuvenator while you are inside of the Kelvin Dome, which makes it so Kelvin is no longer like just a free mid-boss. There might be some shenanigans that you can do. We have yet to test that, but for example, there's an idea that maybe you can Kelvin Dome, someone charges their punch, and as they're about to hit it, you like take down the frozen shelter. So there's that. Lady Guy seems to be one of the biggest winners of the patch. Essence Bomb damage was improved quite a bit. Before it had a 1.05 scaling. Now it has a 1.15. Sorry, actually 1.2. Even though the patch notes it says 1.15. Interesting. And the tier 3 was improved from 22% to 26% of the original damage per second, meaning it's significantly more. Other than that, there's just some bug fixes or whatever, but just as damage, I think, will be enough to make Lady Ice a much better character, but we'll see. All right, we've got Lash. That's my character, and I'm very, very happy with what they've done to Lash. They've been nerfing Lash almost every single patch, and you know, I've been a sad boy, but now you can turn with Ground Slam. you can actually turn, which is insane, because you can do stuff, you can do some pretty crazy stuff. Like, it's much harder for people to dodge your ground slam now, especially if you're doing it from high up in the air. It's very hard for people to dodge it because you can turn with it. They also made it so that his spirit scaling on ground strike damage and on ground strike damage per meter has both been improved, meaning that his ground strike actually does more damage than it did before, which is pretty rare because they've been nerfing ground strike for literally like 3 months in a row. They did nerf his gun damage. His gun damage scaling has been reduced significantly, which means I don't know if gun lash is dead, but it's going to be significantly worse. But spirit lash seems to be well alive and even better than before, and it wasn't even bad in the first place. They've done a couple of Magnus changes. Mainly they've worked on the radius of the medicinal thing. So this is the base radius, but it scales with spirit now. That's the biggest change. They also made it grow by 1 meter by default. But as you can see, if I buy a bunch of spirit, let's say I buy boundless, now my healing is insanely big. Obviously I have a ton of spirit right now, but still that area is ridiculously large, and it might actually be much more useful in team fights now. Let's talk about everybody's least favorite hero, Mo and Krill. So, you know, Mo and Krill I thought was pretty good, maybe OP. And they decided, hey, wouldn't it be nice to just buff him a little bit? So now he can actually combo, and he can use Scorn while inside of his combo for some reason. I actually do think that this is probably a good change in the long term, because making characters feel more fluid is always something that I'm for. So I don't really think it's a bad change, but I think the character is like ridiculously strong right now, and I think it's going to be a very highly contested pick in my opinion. They did nerf his combo tier 2 to 0.75 seconds instead of 1 second, which makes it so combo is now 3.5 seconds once you've gotten the upgrades, instead of what it was previously, which is 3.75 seconds. I don't really think that this affects him too much. I mean, 0.25 seconds is significant, but I think that he's still going to be really strong. Probably one of the strongest characters in the game. So they made some pocket changes. Basically, there's a brief period where you can't double tap your cloak, so as to prevent accidental clicks. Just a nice quality of life change. Otherwise, they've just kind of reworked the numbers on barrage. I think that this is a good change. I think Pocket was a little strong, so now he might be a little bit more in line with the other characters, but I think he's still going to be incredibly strong. So 7 was hit with some nerfs. Basically, they nerfed the base bullet resist of 7 from 8% to 0%, so he doesn't have any bullet resist when starting off. His bullet resist also no longer scales with boons, meaning it no longer scales as he gains souls and things like that. Sorry. Headshot reduction increased from 25% to 35%, so headshots do even less damage to him. And other than that, they nerfed his ult in multiple ways. The damage, the radius, they buffed the cooldown though, and they made it so the audio is a little bit clearer. I don't really think that this is gonna impact 7 that much. I do think that it's a nerf, and I don't really think that he was super highly contested in the first place. And I think he's probably gonna be in the same level, in a similar spot as before. All right, so a lot of people ask me, oh, hey, how's Shiv? Do you play good gun Shiv? Do you play knife Shiv, etc., etc.? So Shiv is fine. Shiv was nerfed in a couple of different ways. They nerfed the amount of deferred damage cleared. They nerfed the damage from slice and dice. They nerfed the overall damage amp from his passive and his ultimate, which you can get back if you put 2 points in it. So now you need to put 2 points in it to get 25% damage amp. And yeah, overall, I think Shiv is still totally fine. As far as whether you go gun build or a knife build, I think they're both still fine, honestly. They did kind of buff knife build by making it so that you can buy rapid recharge. So rapid recharge actually got a buff this patch. It gives 12% weapon damage, making it slightly better for Shiv as it was before, because Shiv likes to click and he likes to shoot knives. So now rapid recharge gives you both charges for your knives as well as just getting overall weapon damage. So knife Shiv might be the way now. It already was pretty good. I think that they were at similar levels, but now knife Shiv might be slightly better. We'll have to see. Vindicta got some very significant changes. I'm just going to put them up on the screen so you guys can read them. I'm not going to read all of them, but basically she has potentially more of a bit of a support playstyle now, a little bit more. She'll share the gold with Assassinate, sorry, the souls. So if you kill someone with Assassinate, it's going to share the souls with the assisters, the people that were nearby you that assisted in the kill. She also does more damage now on headshots rather than body shots. So you can see 192 versus 160. So that's an interesting change. And other than that, just various changes that make her feel a little bit more supporty. A slight nerf to stake though. And another thing that's not really mentioned in the patch notes is now your flight cancellation takes you insanely far. Like before you could do this, like I covered it in my advanced movement tech, but like now it actually like takes you so far. Like, it's actually kind of insane. Like this is ridiculous. You can also dash in the air. Viscus was nerfed a little bit. You know, his weapon damage was nerfed a little bit. His splatter damage was nerfed as well. The other things were kind of looked at. The goo ball stun frequency cooldown improved from 1.5 to 1.25, so that's actually a buff. So they seem to be wanting to buff his utility with his ultimate overall, but nerfing is just like ridiculous damage output that he had. Sorry. I do think that goo is going to be probably weaker in the short term because they nerfed a lot of the melee items too, which was part of what made him strong. So he got a lot of proxy nerfs. Warden overall wasn't changed that much, but his bullet growth was reduced significantly from 1.31 to 1.2. This is a pretty significant nerf to just his overall gun damage, so he's not going to do nearly as much gun damage towards the mid to late game. Alchemical Flask received some slight buffs. And he does gain 50% bullet resistance during his 2-second ult channel now, so I think that overall that's a buff. I'm just going to mention race changes really briefly, even though I don't really think it affects her that much. Her laning basically got nerfed because her default card damage got hit pretty hard. However, her card damage spirit scaling got improved, which means that once you get to about 60 spirit, you do more damage with cards as you did before. This might mean that card build might be better than it was before overall, but the laning stage is a little bit weaker. Yamato got some pretty significant changes. So ammo scales with spirit. So I have 12 ammo here. If I buy, let's say I buy Boundless Spirit, I have now 24 ammo. Power Slash was nerfed slightly, a little bit less damage. Grapple post-cast duration was reduced significantly. So now it's only 0.2 seconds, meaning that you don't have to, you can be actionable very quickly after. So this is a pretty significant buff, even though most people were canceling it to get a melee in. But you can now, maybe you don't have to do that now. Alt Fire now works with conditional things like Pristine Emblem, etc. That's just nice. And overall, you can stop your Power Slash with a parry. A lot of people misunderstood this change. A lot of people in my chat asking me like, hey, can you parry Yamato Power Slash? You cannot parry this, guys. It's just that you can interrupt the channel by parrying. So if you're charging it up, someone's going to melee you, then you can parry them. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.